get taken over by special interest and become extremely corrupt and generally are the worst system. So, I mean, I've thought long and hard about this. I've read the literature and history across the spectrum, and Tarpley's great on history and great on power structures and the eugenicist. God love him. I saw one commenter one time when somebody called in and asked about him, said, don't be two-faced behind his back. Tell him this to his face. This is on the radio and TV. This is not behind Tarpley's back. But I promise, next time he's on, I'm going to say, Tarpley, you got some blind spots. You think we should all take all the vaccines because it's some weird communal proletariat thing. You like McDonald's. You like aspartame, Diet Coke. I mean, he's very proud of this. He goes, what are you going to do, Robinson Crusoe? And I go, no. Robinson Crusoe isn't not taking shots and drinking aspartame and eating chicken McNuggets with silicone in them. So Tarpley's a really smart guy, almost savantish in many ways, because I've been around him personally. He speaks like 5 languages fluently. But look, I'm savantish in a way. I'm sure everybody is. I've got some spots that are lacking. I like Tarpley. He's kind of like a entertaining mascot around here. I mean, we all like Tarpley as a person. It's just his belief in the state, and that the state is the arbiter and is the birth from which all goodness flows. I think he's ass backwards in history. Absolutely. So I disagree with him, and that's what I have to say about Mr. Tarpley. Good question. Had to have a longer answer. We've got we're one question down here at PlanetInfowars.com, folks. This is where you meet. This is where you get involved. This is where you take action. We're going to have a letter to the editor section. I want to get that set up at the time.
All right. So
folks can send not things that I'm going to comment on, but we're going to have Christy sit here and read. And then if you have a comment, that's great. Yeah. I think once a week you should read maybe 20 letters.
That'd be awesome.
4 paragraphs or less. Got to have a rule on that. And then just read them. That way your view, unfettered, goes out. Or I could read them. I mean, whatever.
That would be interesting.
Aaron could read them. Aaron over there running the camera right now because he does such a darn good job.
Aaron has a Facebook following, actually, Aaron.
Oh, Aaron. Aaron's a rock star over there of Liberty. All right, go ahead.
All right, well, this next one comes to you from Keisha, and she says, Alex, if you could go back in time, it's kind of a fun question, actually. If you could go back in time and when you were younger, but still keep all of the knowledge that you have right now, what would that look like? Imagine coming home to the first day of kindergarten being a genius.
Oh, yeah.
Don't we all wish for that?
I don't say I'm a genius now. I've often thought, I think everybody's thought of, think all the mistakes I made. What if I knew all that?
Gosh.
Back then. And I think that's where listening to your parents comes from. But we almost genetically are designed to want to get out of the nest, start our own hut, get out of the system. And our parents are telling us things and we're like not listening to them. So there's 3 ways to learn, I guess. There's by revelation, where it just beamed into your head. There's by experience, and there's by being taught. And experience is a great teacher because you really remember it. But it would be better for young folks out there, even if your old man or mom aren't perfect, they care about you. They're gonna give you some overall advice that's good. So it's best to not detest them because in a way you're detesting yourself. And so, boy, I wish I knew. Is
there a day you want
back then what I know now? What?
Is there a particular day you would want to go back to, like that you think about?
I wish that when some bully started to fight with me, that I just learned to back down when I could, because it was just pointless. I like all those brain cells I'm missing from having my head slammed in the concrete and going to jail and stuff like that. I mean, I would have been less confrontational. But in a way, again, that's catch-22 because I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't grown up where I did in Dallas and seen the things I saw. So whatever. I mean, there's no going back unless you try to teach your children what you've gone through. But they haven't experienced it yet, so they're not going to listen.
Right.
Later you're like, oh, Dad, Mom, you were sure right about that. Man, I wish I'd listened to you. That's the older you get, the more right your parents get.
It's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
All right, well, this next one comes to you from Chris, and he says, Alex, a question. Are things so different here in the UK? One thing I've noticed from campaigning in the UK is that the US campaigning is so much more vitriolic. Do you feel you need a louder voice in the U.S. to get noticed, or is it just plain wrong? Is that wrong?
Well, I mean, you can do stunts in the media to get noticed, but I've noticed we've inadvertently done stunts before where it's the right thing the media picks up, but then they still control the message. It's like you put out something that they're ready to pick up and make big. It's because they can spin it to their advantage.
Right.
So I've never really been calculating about what I do. It's more of, I think this is important. This is what I'm thinking, feeling. I like to impart this. And some of it resonates with people. Some of it doesn't. So it is what it is. That's why it's important with things like PlanetInfowars.com. that people get together there, start their own campaigns, get involved, meet others, because there are people watching out there right now who are smarter than I am, more eloquent than I am, more informed, who've had life experiences that are going to be, bring pieces of the puzzle that I can't cover. That's why I'm trying to hire all these great reporters and bring in other graphics people and expend the capital I've accrued to try to really go to the next level, because I realize this is a very important position we're in. And that's why a lot of times it'll be midnight and I shoot a video and upload it. It's because I realize, man, we've got this limited window to actually affect change for the good.
It's a key time in history, right?
What question are we up to now?
We're up to number 4.
Am I moving fast?
You are moving fast. I'm very
Continue the interrogation.
Here it goes. This is actually from user Tofu, clever username. I'm a former active duty Marine. I live in Okinawa, Japan, and I listen to your show every day over and over, the rebroadcast and all of that. I believe in you, Alex. So I've woken up a few friends, and they listen to me like you do. When I go on airbase, they scan our civilian ID cards, and I'm a prepper. But my friends think I'm a kook, which I thought was kind of cute language. Do you think things would become bad for American citizens living abroad like me?
Statistically, in a world financial collapse that's designed to bring in world government, it will be worse to be in areas where you're not indigenous, just because you don't fit in, you don't blend in with the culture. When things get rough, you'll be the first person gets turned on. I don't want to geographically say something about, an island off Japan, because you know more about that area than I do because you live there. So I think your question states the concern and the knowledge you already have. But, if it does, cultural bounds mean nothing, because we're all human in the final equation. If you've got really good friends you've known for years, the cultural differences can be bridged there. It's just that, I don't know, the Japanese are known for being the opposite of lawless. So Japan's a pretty good place to be during a crisis. I mean, you think Americans would act that polite and nice during a nuclear meltdown? You got nothing. It'd be looting, mass murder, and death, and burning cities if we had something like you had. I mean, instead, crime went down when they got hit by tidal waves and had reactors blow up.
Crazy.
Instead, here, it'd be like,
oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Now, I'm thinking about your geographic and cultural locale. Even though it's an island, things are more expensive. You're an island off an island. You said Okinawa, right? Mm-hmm. That's a problem for cost during a collapse. But I don't know. I mean, there couldn't be a more...
kind, forgiving people?
Yeah, I mean, just orderly, focused, people too prideful to be crooks on average in the Japanese. So I'm not going to judge it, but it's a mixed bag.
All right, this next one comes to you from Noah, and he says, is there any proof that British Labour Party politicians, John Smith and Robin Cook, were assassinated by associates of Tony Blair? I think that kind of alludes to it.
Yeah, there's overwhelming evidence that happened. People can look into it. When they would come out and say Al-Qaeda's fake, the government runs it, boom, you'd have a heart attack next day. So, yeah, no, I mean, they kill people all the time. I mean, you had Dr. David Kelly said, they've told me I'll be killed and found in the woods if I tell you, but it's all fake. There's no WMDs. And then a guy walking his dog sees 5 guys in black uniforms leaving the body, running away. The wrists are slit, no blood at the scene. Then they say he took pills and died, but 2 undissolved pills were in his stomach.
This one comes to you from, forgive me if I can't say it right, Vitham, I think. Alex, I've heard you mention some things about Ronald Reagan's assassination attempt and the medical care he received afterwards that somehow diminished his mental capacity. I've been unable to find anything else on this. Could you expand on the topic a bit? Maybe provide a resource material?
Well, here's the good news and the bad news. I'm not looking at these questions beforehand. Sometimes she'll ask me a question about one of them because she wants to know before we go to them. But I have not seen your questions, so I don't have time to go look up the stuff, because if we did, we never even get to this.
Yeah.
Multiple guests over the years. I think TV news pieces were done at the time that, Reagan was incapacitated a few weeks because of some cold blood he was given. And if you do that, it can cause kind of like a overall stroke-like effect in the brain. The fact that he would be asleep for days, then suddenly be animated, and the word is they use that to kind of get control of him medically. But we should look into that. Perhaps you can do it, Christy, for next time, so we can put a star and then come back and say, before we get to new questions, let's go to a question from last time.
Yeah, we're going to have to do kind of a recap of some past episodes where finalize some answers there.
Yeah, because, again, I already said it. The problem is I can't sit here and then have a documented bibliographed answer every time.
You don't have that on your...
Well, no, none of it's on the fly. None of it's on the fly.
Yeah, no kidding. This next one comes to you from Glenn. He says, smoking used to be ubiquitous, It was everywhere. TV, billboards, movies, even in comic books. Smokers are some of the most stubborn people I know. In your opinion, was smoking a beta test for getting rid of an individual's rights?
Yes, it is. I mean, it was Edward Bernays and other propagandists that helped sell that, be radical, be a feminist, smoke cigarettes in the 20s and 30s, liberty torches. And then the system decided, for whatever reason, okay, well, we can kill them through vaccines and GMO. Let's have the test to ban something that people know is unhealthy. And the next, it's popcorn, milk products, and soft drinks and salt. Now, not in New York, but spreading all over. So it's kind of a globalist system where they try to get standardized laws all over the world. And yes, it was undoubtedly a beta test. I mean, they're one of the oldest men in the world, over 105 years old, smokes a pack of cigarettes every day. I'm not saying it's good. Genetically, some people can handle it. Other people, it's a death warrant. Not a good idea to be pulling a bunch of dirty smoke. It's not just the tobacco. They had hundreds of chemicals in those things to make them more addictive, to make you smoke more.
Oh, yeah.
The weird thing is I've always smoked on and off, cigars, cigarettes, you name it. I'm a big tobacco guy. But one time for 6 years I quit, where suddenly it stunk and I didn't like it. And finally, again, about a year ago, I quit, and now it stinks and it's horrible. I have no desire for it. So it's like, thank God I actually prayed to get me off those things, and it happened, because now when I smell somebody smoking a cigarette, it makes me want to throw up. And I used to wonder why I'd be outside a restaurant or something smoking a cigarette, and people walk by and go, oh, we got to smell your smoke. I'd get mad at them. But now I really get it. It's like, as I smell it, it just smells like...
It's interesting what knowledge does to you, too. I mean, the more you learn about how bad something is, you like cultivate this desire to really get rid of it. I mean, the idea of like what it does to your lungs or how it affects your body.
Oh, it's also, you know how many radioactive isotopes are in it?
Oh, I didn't even
know this, but like somehow it's strange. The tobacco puts, it's weird. People can look it up. It sounds crazy. But I had, during Fukushima, I'd already quit smoking, so it's over a year now, but I had nuclear physicist Dr. Bob Bowman on the show. And he was like, well, don't worry too much about Fukushima. They're getting a lot of radiation, but what we get is less than somebody that smokes cigarettes for a few years. He goes, you get all these rads off of smoking. And I thought, that's crazy. So I'm looking it up, and I didn't know it was like well known. That tobacco, I guess. Oh, but side issue. Go ahead to the next point.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating.
We're obviously going to get through 50. Let's do 20. We'll do 25 tomorrow.
Okay, we'll just.
What's the next one?
This one is actually more of a complex question. It says allied governments are covering up non-HIV cases, and this girl actually, her name is Kayla, and she says like mine, under the chronic fatigue syndrome. And how can HIV deemed to cause AIDS when there are millions of non-HIV AIDS cases? And I actually researched a little bit of this on my own. In 1993, the CBC actually said that if your T-cell count is less than 200, then you have HIV. And so it skyrocketed those number of cases. So, I mean... Yeah,
you don't have the virus, but you have an autoimmune disorder.
Right.
Which is actually things they've done through different vaccines, foods, and things. They're actually engineering it, and it's a very complex issue. And then HIV is really the cover for other bioweapons they're running in Africa. I mean, why is it... the BBC even had to admit like a decade ago that they went and checked all these women, the young women that had... HIV, and they checked them, and they had never had intercourse. So how did they have HIV? And they said, well, it must have been dirty needles in the vaccine process. So how is it that someone in the West can have hundreds of partners and not get it, but people that haven't ever had any partners, and say, oh, well, they're having a lot of sex over in Africa. No, they're shooting them up with it. And then with it is a trace virus, HIV, which they're always claiming is changing. It's just the covered excuse.